So Greenland finally said no, and I gotta tell you, it is not every day you see 57,000 people living on an iceberg look at Donald Trump and go, yeah, we're good. Because 2 weeks ago, Trump was basically doing what Trump does. He walked into a situation like a guy trying to buy a used car on Craigslist, and he opened with, how much for the whole thing? Except the car is Greenland, and the whole thing is a giant island, part of a NATO ally, filled with people who did not ask to be included in whatever midlife crisis this is. And this time it wasn't just, hey, we should buy Greenland. It wasn't even, I'm thinking about buying Greenland. It was, I'm going to pay everyone up there up to $100,000 per person, which is, first of all, that's not a policy. That's a game show. That's not diplomacy. That's a sweepstakes. That's, congratulations, you've been selected to be annexed. But today, Greenland answered. And they answered in the cleanest, sharpest, most devastating way possible. 3 words. We choose Denmark. Not, we'll get back to you. Not, we're exploring our options. Not, let's set up a working group. Not even, we're not for sale, because that still implies you could be for sale if the price is right. No. Greenland went full breakup text. We choose Denmark. That is Greenland leaving Trump on red with a flag emoji. And it happened in Copenhagen, with Greenland's prime minister standing right next to Denmark's prime minister, cameras everywhere, the whole world watching, and he says, in plain English, Greenland does not want to be owned by the United States. Greenland does not want to be governed by the United States. Greenland does not want to be part of the United States. That is not diplomatic language. That is a restraining order. And I love that Greenland didn't even pretend this was complicated. They didn't do the whole, we value our partnership thing. They didn't do the strong relationship thing. They didn't do the we appreciate the interest thing. They just went straight to absolutely not, sir. Please stop calling. Which honestly, if you've ever worked customer service, you know that tone. That is the tone of someone who has been asked the same insane question so many times that they're not even mad anymore, they're just tired. Now, why is this a big deal? Because Trump doesn't handle rejection well. Trump handles rejection the way a toddler handles nap time. And he's been pushing this like it's inevitable, like Greenland is some empty plot of land on Monopoly, and he's just trying to get a hotel on it. He's out there saying things like, one way or the other, we're going to have Greenland. One way or the other. That is not a sentence you want to hear from a sitting president about a NATO ally. That's something a Bond villain says right before he presses a button and the floor opens up. And it's not just the words, it's the vibe. The vibe is, I'm not asking. The vibe is, I've already pictured it on a hat. And then he adds the insult. Because of course he does. He starts mocking Denmark and Greenland's defense. He's like, basically their defense is 2 dog sleds. 2 dog sleds. First of all, I just want to point out, if your defense involves dog sleds, that means you are living in a place so cold and so hostile that nature itself is your security system. You don't need missiles when the weather can kill you in 10 minutes. Second, imagine being Denmark. You're a wealthy European country. You're in NATO. You're doing your job. And the President of the United States is on Air Force One roasting you like you're a contestant on The Bachelor who can't parallel park. But here's the part that really matters. Greenland didn't just say no. Greenland said no in a way that makes it harder for everyone else to pretend this is normal. Because for the last, I don't know, decade, we've been living in this reality where Trump says something completely insane, and the rest of the world has to respond like it's a reasonable proposal. Like, ah yes, the president would like to acquire an island. Let's consult our island acquisition policy. And Greenland just snapped the spell. They basically said, we are not doing this. We are not playing along. We are not going to pretend this is a normal conversation between allies. And that matters because Trump's whole strategy, his entire way of operating, is to keep everyone off balance. He throws out something outrageous, and while everyone's trying to figure out if he's serious, he pushes the next outrageous thing. It's like watching a magician who keeps pulling rabbits out of a hat, except the rabbits are international crises. And by the way, can we just acknowledge how weird it is that this is happening right after Venezuela? Because if you've been following the news, it's like Trump woke up and decided, you know what would be fun? A global tour of things you can't do? And suddenly the world is reacting to this Greenland thing with a different kind of fear. Because now people aren't saying, oh, he's just talking. They're saying, wait, is he serious? Is he actually going to try this? That's why One Way or the Other landed like a bomb, because it sounds like a threat. And it doesn't help that Trump has this habit of saying something insane, then acting like everyone else is crazy for reacting. He'll say, we're going to acquire Greenland. And then when Europe freaks out, he'll go, why is everyone so dramatic? I'm just trying to help. Yeah. That's what every controlling ex says too. I'm just trying to help. I just want what's best for you. Why are you being so emotional about this island annexation? And now, for the first time since he came back into power, someone is openly, publicly, loudly saying no. Not in private, not through back channels, not with a careful statement written by 12 lawyers, just no. And it wasn't just Greenland's prime minister. It was the entire political system in Greenland. All 5 parties in their parliament signed a joint statement basically saying, we don't want to be Americans, we don't want to be Danes, we want to be Greenlanders. That is incredible. Do you know how hard it is to get 5 political parties to agree on anything? In America, we can't get 2 parties to agree that the sky is still there. Greenland got the entire spectrum to unite against Trump in like 48 hours. That's how strong the no was. And Denmark's prime minister, who has been doing this careful balancing act, trying not to blow up the alliance, she finally said it out loud. It has not been easy to stand up to completely unacceptable pressure from our closest ally. Completely unacceptable pressure from our closest ally. That is not a phrase you use unless you are furious. That's the diplomatic version of, what the hell is wrong with you? And then Europe started closing ranks. France, Germany, the UK, Italy, Spain, Poland, the Netherlands, they all basically said, this is not America's decision. Greenland and Denmark decide Greenland. Which, yes, that is how borders work. That is how sovereignty works. That is how not starting World War III works. And what's wild is now you've got people in the United States, including Republicans, saying, hey, maybe don't invade Greenland. And I love that we have to say it like that, like it's a normal policy debate, like it's a bill. The Don't Invade Greenland Act of 2026. You've got Senator Rand Paul saying he'll do everything to stop a military takeover. You've got bipartisan House members introducing legislation to prevent military action against NATO members. Because that's the other thing here. Greenland isn't just some random island. It's tied to Denmark. Denmark is in NATO. And NATO has this little thing called collective defense, which basically means if you attack one member, you're attacking all of them. So if Trump decides he's going to take Greenland one way or the other, congratulations. We're now in a scenario where the United States could theoretically be at war with Europe over an island made of ice. That's not strategy. That's a drunk argument at a bar that got out of hand. And what makes it even more ridiculous is Trump keeps framing this like it's about security. Like, if we don't take Greenland, Russia or China will. And yes, Greenland is strategically important. It's between North America and Europe. It's part of missile defense systems. It's in the Arctic. It's got rare earth minerals. It matters. But the idea that Russia or China is just going to take Greenland is not how any of this works. That's like saying, if I don't buy your house, a bear will buy it. And even NATO officials have been like, there's no factual basis for this claim that Russian and Chinese ships are all over Greenland's waters. So what is it really about? Let's be honest. It's about resources. It's about minerals. It's about control. It's about Trump wanting a big shiny trophy that he can point to and say, look what I got. And also, because Trump has this obsession with real estate. Everything is real estate to him. The presidency is real estate. The military is real estate. Foreign policy is just deal-making. He treats the world like it's a map in a boardroom, like he can just move pieces around and call it success. And now Greenland is saying, we're not a piece, we're people, which is a sentence that should not be revolutionary. But here we are. And tomorrow, the confrontation moves to Washington. Denmark and Greenland's foreign ministers are meeting with J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio at the White House. And after today, we all know what the answer is going to be. No. But the bigger story isn't just that Greenland rejected Trump. The bigger story is what happens next, because Trump does not like being told no. Trump is the guy who gets told, "Sir, you can't do that." And his immediate response is, "Watch me." And this is where the world has to decide if it's going to keep treating this like normal politics or if it's going to draw a line. Because Greenland just drew one. Europe is drawing one. Even Congress is starting to draw one. And that is new. For years, Trump's power came from this sense of inevitability. People acted like opposing him was pointless, like he always gets his way, like the base will always back him no matter what, like the chaos is unstoppable. But Greenland just proved something. You can say no. You can do it publicly. You can do it clearly. You can do it without apologizing. And it doesn't mean Trump stops. It doesn't mean he won't escalate. It doesn't mean he won't try to punish them or insult them or threaten them or spin it into some grievance story for his supporters. But it means the spell is broken. It means the world is starting to remember that the United States is not supposed to be a mafia state where you pay people off or threaten them into giving you territory. Because here's the truth. If Greenland had said yes, it wouldn't have been the end of this. It would have been the beginning of a new era where every country on Earth has to worry that the most powerful nation in the world might start shopping for land like it's Amazon Prime. People who bought Greenland also bought Canada. And I know some of Trump's supporters will say, "What's the big deal?" It's just a deal. It's smart. It's strategic. But ask yourself this. Do you want to live in a world where your country can be bought? Where your identity can be negotiated? Where your sovereignty is just a number? Because Greenland just told us something important. You can't buy a people who don't want to be bought. Trump offered $100,000 per person. Greenland said no. Trump offered protection. Greenland said no. Trump offered intimidation. Greenland said no. And now we're about to find out what Trump does when the answer isn't, "Let's make a deal." It's stop asking. If you want to stay on top of this story and the next inevitable insane twist that comes out of the White House, make sure you're subscribed, because this isn't over. Not even close. And I want to know what you think. Is Greenland's rejection the beginning of real pushback against Trump? Or is it just the start of an even bigger escalation? Drop it in the comments. And if you've got a friend who still thinks buying Greenland is just a funny joke, send them this, because it's not a joke anymore. I'll see you next time.